Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. I feel like I'm saying that at the start of all of my videos these days, but let's just say the month of March has been a crazy time for me. I think by the time you're seeing this video, it has been like a good month, maybe like 3 weeks that I have not posted a video, and it's just because my life has been crazy lately and I haven't been doing a whole lot of reading, so I haven't been doing a whole lot of filming because I don't really feel like I have a lot to talk about. That being said, I am coming back and returning to my channel with a book haul because I have not been reading books, but I have been buying books. To be fair, this is definitely like a collective book haul. Like, this is stuff that I received. Some of it is like from Christmas, some of it is maybe from before that, I don't really know. Some of it I've gotten since then. But yeah, this is definitely a collective book haul. You've probably seen some of these books in a couple of videos in the past, so I'm not going to be going too in-depth into any of these. But yeah, that is what we're going to be doing today, as well as I also have 2 Book of the Month boxes to unbox today. And before anybody asks, this video is not sponsored, nor was this gifted to me from the company, but this was in fact given to me from some of my family for Christmas. I think they got me like a 6-month subscription to Book of the Month. So I have my February and my March box to unbox today. I haven't opened either of them, and it is now April, so I should probably get around to doing that. But for now, I'm going to start with some of the other books that I have received over the last few months. Like I said, it's been a while since I have filmed, so bear with me while I film this video because it might be a little bit messy, a little all over the place. I'm a little bit rusty with filming, but hopefully we'll get back into the groove of things, and I really do want to actually post on a consistent basis. I'm hoping that my life is starting to get a little bit more back on track, but the month of March has just been nuts. However, that was a very long-winded intro, so without further ado, let's jump into the book haul, starting off with one of the books that I received for Christmas. This is The Silent Patient, which is an adult thriller book. In here, I think we're following a woman who lives a seemingly perfect life until one day she murders her husband and then doesn't speak a word after that. And then I think we're following a psychotherapist who is captivated by this woman's story and is insistent on trying to get her to speak and find out why she murdered her husband. It sounds like a really interesting premise, so I'm very excited to give it a read, and I think I've heard a lot of great things about this book, and I'm pretty sure the author has written another book since then, so I really want to get around to reading this one to see if I might want to pick up his other one. Another book that I received for Christmas is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is a book that I own in a couple of other different editions. One of the ones that I own is like the Penguin cloth-bound edition that has like the repeated like design on the cover. So many people love the Penguin cloth bounds, but I find that the like patterns on the front will rub off really easily, as well as with bigger books like this, they don't open super well. So I really wanted another edition of Jane Eyre, so my mom bought me this one for Christmas. I believe these are called the like flexi bound Barnes & Noble editions, and these ones open a lot easier, so it's a much easier time reading a book that is really chunky like this. I have actually read Jane Eyre before. I think I read it in school, and I didn't super enjoy it back when I read it for school, but I also didn't enjoy half the things that I was like forced to read. So I would quite like to give it a read again sometime soon, because Jane Eyre actually inspired a lot of some of the other works in media that I enjoy nowadays. So I really do want to read it again and see if I can appreciate it a little bit more now that I'm older and I'm not being forced to read it. Next, we have the most recent book that I have acquired, which is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I hope I am saying this name correctly. I'm not sure if I am, though. This is a fantasy book that just sounds super beautiful and fantastical, and I'm so excited to read it. In this book, we're following our main character who lives in this house that is described as being like endlessly explored. On the back of the book, it says its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, its walls lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, and he lives to explore the house. There's also one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice twice a week and asks for help with research into a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. It sounds like it's going to be a very beautiful book, but also kind of dark at the same time. Like, every element of this book just sounds like something that I would enjoy, both with the concept and then also like the setting of it being in this house that is just like endless. It just sounds absolutely fascinating, so I'm super excited to pick this up sometime soon. Next up, we have The Fountains of Silence by Ruta Sepetys. Ruta Sepetys wrote one of my all-time favorite books, Salt to the Sea. I read that book last year and it was my favorite book that I read, so this is another one of her books. This is one that I've definitely heard about the least, like, to be honest, until I saw this at Barnes & Noble, I hadn't even heard of it before, and since then, only since mentioning on my channel have I heard like people discuss it in the comments, but besides that, I hadn't ever really heard of this one before. But this is also historical fiction, which I think is like mainly what this author writes, and I don't know much about it, but I do know that it is set in Madrid in 1957. So yeah, if this is anything like Salt to the Sea, then I know I'm going to absolutely love this book, and I am so excited to pick this one up, and I really hope that it lives up to my expectations. Next are some books that I actually got during the Barnes & Noble 50% off of hardcover sale, which I know happened quite a while ago, so that just shows you how aged some of these books are since I've filmed a book haul. But the first one that I ended up picking up for that sale was Disappearing Act by Robert Sheehan. This is a collection of 16 short stories, and if you don't know who Robert Sheehan is, he is an Irish actor. He is probably most known for his role on the TV show Misfits, or as Klaus on The Umbrella Academy, which is where I mostly know him from, and I've seen some of his other stuff since then. But I am a really big fan of his, just like as a person in general. Like, if you've ever seen any of his interviews, he is just such a like charming, funny, charismatic person, and I just absolutely love him. So when I heard that he had written a book, I knew I wanted to read it straight away, so I bought it as soon as it came out. That being said, I don't know much at all about what this is going to be about. I have no idea what the premise of any of these short stories are. I don't know what the genre is, if each story is going to be like vastly different or if they're going to be kind of similar. I have no idea, but being that it's him, I just feel like I'm going to love it, which might not be a good thing to say because I am notoriously known to not enjoy short story collections. So I am a little bit nervous at the same time, but I feel like I'm going to enjoy it. I really hope that it's humorous, and knowing him, I feel like it's going to be, and I'm gonna love it. So yeah, also the cover of this book is stunning, but we should probably move on because I could probably talk about it for hours. And then the only other books that I picked up for the 50% off sale were the like leather bound books that they have. So the first one that I got was Stephen King. This one includes Carrie, The Shining, and Salem's Lot. Of the three, I've only read Carrie and The Shining. I haven't read Salem's Lot before, and I don't own another edition of this, but I think this is absolutely stunning, as all of the like leather bound ones that they have are. So this is what the cover looks like. This is the spine, which I really love, and then that's the back of the book, and the end pages aren't too exciting. I'm not like thrilled about this, but they're still nice, and of course like the foiled edges and all of that, they're just very beautiful books. The next one that I picked up is The Phantom of the Opera and Other Gothic Tales. So that is what the cover looks like. There's the spine, and then this is the back of the book, which includes some of the stories, some of the authors of the other stories in here, such as Edgar Allan Poe, Mary Shelley, H.P. Lovecraft, and a couple of other people. And then the end pages of this one look like this. I don't know if you can really see them, but they have the Phantom's mask on there. And of course, they just have like lovely title pages. So I just love these books so much, and I kind of had to stop buying them because they are kind of expensive. I don't know if it's just me or if anybody else remembers this, but back in the day, as if I'm very old, when I first like started collecting these, I swear that they were only around like $20. Now they all seem to be like $25, which I know $5 isn't like that much of a difference, but it is when you like buy books as often as I do. So I kind of stopped collecting these, so I was glad to grab them for half off during the sale. And then the final one that I picked up for the sale was the Holy Bible. This is the King James version, so this is what the cover looks like, which is, again, absolutely stunning. That's the spine, and then this is the back, which just kind of looks like the front of it, and then the end pages look like this, which kind of reminds me of something out of Lord of the Rings, but I think it's really, really pretty. And this one also has illustrations in it, which I think is really cool. And I know the King James version is like one of the what is the word I'm looking for? It's not the easiest to read as far as the language goes, but I kind of want to give it a read through here just to be able to see all of the illustrations. So I don't know if I will ever get around to actually reading this book, but I just think it's a nice one to have on my shelf. I know, like, growing up, my family have these like really, really old family Bibles that actually used to come with like locks on the front of them, which are super pretty, and this is kind of what it reminded me of. So I just kind of wanted to have a fancy Bible on my shelf as well. I do have like my own personal Bible that I read, but I think this one is just a nice one to have in my collection. And I also have one other book here that I also got for Christmas, and that is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Starling. This is one of my most anticipated releases of last year. I really wanted to read it last year, but then I just never got around to it. But this is supposedly inspired by Crimson Peak and Rebecca, which are two of my all-time favorite things, so I am beyond excited to read this book. Also, it has a stunning cover. Like, this has to be one of the best covers that I've seen as of lately. So just to read you the synopsis, because again, I feel like I'm just not in a headspace to be able to do it justice based off of my own memory, so I'm just going to read you the synopsis. It says, practical, unassuming Jane Shoringfield has done the calculations and decided that the most secure path forward is this: a husband in a marriage of convenience who will allow her to remain independent and occupied with meaningful work. Her first choice, the dashing but reclusive Dr. Augustine Lawrence, agrees to her proposal with only one condition: that she must never visit Lindridge Hall, his crumbling family manor outside of town. Yet on their wedding night, an accident strands her at his door in a pitch-black rainstorm, and she finds him changed. Gone is the bold, courageous surgeon, and in his place is a terrified, paranoid man, one who cannot tell reality from nightmare and fears Jane is an apparition come to haunt him. By morning, Augustine is himself again, but Jane knows something is deeply wrong at Lindridge Hall and with the man she has so hastily bound her safety to. In The Death of Jane Lawrence, Caitlin Starling crafts a new kind of gothic horror from the bones of the beloved canon set in a dark mirror version of post-war England. This Crimson Peak-inspired story assembles, then upends, every expectation set in place by Shirley Jackson and Rebecca, and will leave readers shaken, desperate to begin again as soon as they are finished. So yeah, everything about that just sounds right up my alley. Sadly, since this book has come out, I have not heard the greatest things about it, but I'm hoping that will like lower my expectations and then I will be pleasantly surprised. We will see. Okay, I'm remaining optimistic here because I'm genuinely like so excited for this book. I just said lowered my expectations, but like I can't. I'm so excited for this book. Next up, we have one of my favorite books that I read a couple years ago, and that is Burton on Burton. This is edited by Mark Salisbury and it has a foreword by Johnny Depp. So this is the revised edition because there were actually two editions of this book that came out. So this is like the closest thing that we're gonna get to a Tim Burton like memoir nonfiction book. This is, I believe how it worked was that it is a collection of interviews that Tim Burton has done that were then transcribed into this whole book, and this is essentially all about all of the movies that he did up until this book was published, which I'm pretty sure this was published right before Sweeney Todd came out, which is very frustrating because Sweeney Todd is my favorite Tim Burton film, and I would love for them to make another revised edition with him talking about all of the work that he's done since then so that I can hear him talk about Sweeney Todd. So this was about all of the work that he did before Sweeney Todd was released, which I think was in 2007 or 8, so that's when this book essentially came out. So this is about his work, but because so much of Tim Burton is in his work, I feel like you learn quite a lot about him himself through this book. So essentially that's why I say it's like the closest that we're gonna get to a Tim Burton memoir, and I absolutely loved it. It's also full of pictures from some of his films as well as concept art and his drawings, and it just makes it really easy to visualize the stuff that he's talking about when it comes to the films, but everything is also in black and white. And I just absolutely loved this book when I read it. I definitely want to reread it sometime soon because I just love Tim Burton so much. I'm trying to slowly but surely make my way through every Tim Burton film because there are some that I still haven't seen yet, but he is my favorite movie director and I just love this book so much. So I'd originally gotten it from the library, but I wanted a copy for my own library, so now I have one. And then the last two books I have to show you before we get into the book of the month unboxings are two thrillers that were given to me by one of my coworkers. She is pretty much the only coworker that I work with that also likes to read, so I've given her some books and she's given me some books. So she mainly reads thrillers that I've never really heard of before, and I don't know much about what these are about, and I kind of just want to go into them blind. So I'm just going to tell you the titles. Let me know in the comments if you've read them or what you think of them. But the first one is The Bone Jar. This is by S.W. Kane. I have never heard of this book or this author before, but I think it has an interesting title. It kind of has like this creepy forest, but then you can see like a city skyline in the background, so we'll see how I enjoy this one. And the other one that she gave me was Cold Cold Heart. This is again another book and author that I've never heard of before, but let me know in the comments if you've read it, what you thought of it. So I think these are just going to be like fun, fast little thriller books. This one is very like floppy, which I love a good floppy paperback, so I'm very excited for this. I think this is going to be fun on like a nice rainy day off to read, which is what I'm hopefully looking forward to in the springtime. So those are all of the books that I have acquired over the last few months. Now to finish off this video, I am going to unbox my little book of the month boxes. So I've got this one from February, and then I have this one from, or no, sorry, this one is from March, this one is from February. A fun thing that book of the month does is that you can actually use your credits to get add-ons of books that they have released from previous months. So in February, I got one of the February releases, and then I also got an add-on of a book that I had read before and I wanted to add to my collection. So I think that's a fun little thing that they do. But for now, I think I'm actually going to start off with the one that I got in March. I haven't opened these yet, so I don't know if it's just like the book inside or what I'm going to find, but I just sliced open the tape so that I didn't have to embarrass myself on camera not being able to get into it. But yes, here is the book. You've got great taste. Thank you. So yeah, this is the book that I got. To be honest, I kind of already forgot what it was, so this is like a pleasant surprise. This is called The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I believe this is the same author that wrote another book called The Sundown Motel. Thank God it said it on the inside because I forgot what it was called. But that book has been like on my TBR to read for quite a while, The Sundown Motel, and I still haven't gotten around to reading it yet. But I saw this book was one of the picks for March, and it sounded really interesting. I've heard so many great things about the author's other books, so I thought I would give this a try, and I guess I'm going to end up reading this one first, and if I like it, then I'll go back and read the other one. What I do like straight off the bat is that this cover is super duper similar to the Sundown Motel cover. I don't know if they're just planning on doing this vibe with all of their books. I really hope that this isn't like a sequel to the first one because I haven't read it, so I hope that's not the case, but I like the fact that the covers like match. Because it's already been like 1,000 years since I ordered this book, I don't remember what it's about, so we're gonna do that annoying thing where I just read on the cover. So it says, "Some crimes come back to haunt you. A true crime blogger gets more than she bargained for while interviewing the woman acquitted of 2 cold case slayings in this chilling new novel from the best-selling author of The Sundown Motel." So it looks like there are 2 different timelines that we're following. The first one is in, maybe I'm just getting ahead of myself. It says, in 1977, Clear Lake, Oregon was shaken by the Lady Killer murders. 2 men, seemingly randomly, were murdered with the same gun with strange notes left behind. Beth Greer was the perfect suspect, a rich, eccentric 23-year-old woman seen fleeing one of the crime scenes, but she was acquitted and she retreated to the isolation of her mansion. Then Oregon 2017, Shay Collins is a receptionist, but by night she runs a true crime website, The Book of Cold Cases, a passion fueled by the attempted abduction she escaped as a child. When she meets Beth by chance, Shay asks for an interview. To Shay's surprise, Beth says yes. I'm like slowly losing my momentum as I'm reading the book, you can tell. But I feel like you get the gist of what this book is about. So it sounds pretty interesting, like I said. I really enjoy the cover. Like, it's kind of... Hello. Sounds really interesting. I really hope that I enjoy it and then can pick up the author's other book that I really wanted to read. So now moving on to the box from February. So like I said, there's going to be 2 books in here. So, oh, I still have great taste, it says. Oh, and it comes with a little booklet, which I'm not going to read. Okay, so the first book that we have in here is one of the picks for February, which is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. When I first was picking what books I wanted to get for this month, I literally had not heard of any of the books that I was looking at, and to be fair, I don't watch BookTube nearly as much, if at all, anymore, to be honest with you, so it's not really that shocking that I hadn't heard of any of the books before. But then as soon as I picked this one as the book that I wanted to order, then I kept seeing this pop up on my Goodreads of other people reading it, and it seemed like they were enjoying it, so I feel like this was a good pick. Once again, since it has been like 1,000 years since I have ordered this book, I don't remember what it's about, but I know it's a fantasy, and I feel like it's gonna be like mythological in some way, but I think it's about, from what I remember, like 2 once childhood enemies that now have to like partner together in order to save some people. It says, with unforgettable characters, a spellbinding plot, and gorgeous world building, A River Enchanted is a stirring story of duty, love, and the power of true partnership. So yeah, again, my apologies for like not giving the best synopsises of this book, but honestly, if you've watched any of my other book hauls, then you're probably not surprised. Then the other book that I got in here was one of the ones from the previous months. So this is the book that I've already read before, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted my own copy for my library, and that is The Paris Hours by Alex George. So this is a historical fiction book. It's set in the 1920s, 1927 to be exact, in Paris. We follow a couple of different main characters, but this is essentially set over one day, and we get to see these characters as they get themselves into different kinds of trouble, and then see how they are going to get out of it over the course of one day. It is a really beautiful book. It's not very long at all, being that it takes place in one day. It can only be so long, to be honest. But it was a really beautiful book, and it's definitely not one for everybody because it's not overly like thrilling or exciting. Some of it we follow these characters as they're almost just living their lives, and we get some flashback scenes to see how they ended themselves in the situations that they're in now. But overall, it's just like a beautifully written book, and it's very atmospheric, and it's set in Paris, which is just a bonus because I just am automatically drawn to books that are set there. So I really love this book and would totally recommend it, and I'm glad that I now have my own edition for my bookshelf. So those are all of the books that I have acquired over the past few months. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Of the ones that I haven't read yet, which ones do you think that I should prioritize and pick up first? I hope this video wasn't too all over the place or messy. Like I said, I haven't filmed in quite some time, so I'm still getting back into the groove of filming, and I am going to try and get back on a regular posting schedule of like at least once a week, but we will see how it goes. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!